Today I'm going to give you a simple guide how the latest MOC enemies work. But I want to start with Zandar, because he has many things going on. And I will tell you now what the whole purpose of this fight is. And that is that you want him to switch states the whole time. Because every time he switches a state, he gets increased damage. So we enter the battle like this. And as we can see, he has 2 out of 4 stacks. If he has 4 out of 4 stacks, he switches to this state. And these stacks increase whenever he summons enemies. So as you can see, these 2 he has summoned, he got 2 stacks. When this thing on the left gets a turn, he will summon another 2. So then he would have 4 out of 4 stacks and would go to this side. But we can also increase the stacks whenever we summon a memo sprite on the field. So for example, Castoris or Dragon. But by the time I have summoned 2 Castoris Dragons now, this thing would have already gotten its turn. But okay, we go to this state now. And as you can see, the thing he will get here is this debuff. And this gives him increased damage. So he has now 1 because we have switched once to this state. And now this thing has become red and you can get 10 stacks. But now the aim is to kill enemies. When we kill an enemy, this thing will get +1 stack. So we need to kill as many enemies as possible, as fast as possible, until he gets 10 stacks. Because when he has 10 stacks, he will do a big attack. We got to tank that. And then we start again here. So now this thing has become yellow. And we can see right here that he now has 2 stacks of this thing. So that means he will take more increased damage now. And then we start again. We just got to wait until this thing gets a turn now. He will summon 2 enemies then. And then this thing will spawn in the action bar again, somewhere here. Then he will get a turn again. He will summon another 2. Then we will go to this red face again. And then he would have 3 stacks then. So we take even more increased damage. We got to kill as many enemies as possible here. He will do this attack. We go to this state again. Then he would have 4 stacks. And that's the whole thing. And by the time he gets 3 or 4 stacks, he will be dead already. And he luckily gets this increased damage every time he switches these states. Because we know he literally has 5 of these HP bars. And he is really tanky. So we want to make him switch these states ASAP. That's the whole aim of this fight. And then yes, he has more gimmicks going on here and there, which I will explain to you, so you can clear this wave a bit faster. The first thing I want you to note is these enemies of his he summons. The thing you want to remember with these enemies is that you want to reduce their stacks to 0 here. And they lose a stack every time you attack them. And the character that attacked this enemy, that reduced it to 0, that character will get a little bit of energy, which is always appreciated. So make sure you time your attacks a bit better when you use a character like Castoris who doesn't have energy, so that she does not do the last hit to this enemy, reducing its stacks to 0, but that it is like, for example, Ranmei, Silverwolf or Hyacinth, because they need that energy and not Castoris, of course. And then also when this enemy gets his stacks reduced to 0, he will take damage and his action will delayed and he will take additional damage every time you attack him. But all you need to know is get his stacks to 0, with the last hit being an ally of yours who needs this energy the most. It is like 5 or 10 energy, but still always appreciated. Okay then, what else does this enemy do? Well, you want to make sure that when you see this icon on your head, that you cleanse it ASAP. Because this enemy can apply this thing on you, it's called refurb. This on itself doesn't do anything, but when you have this on your head and you get attacked by any other enemy, then it will get removed, but your ally cannot do anything until the start of the next turn and their action will be delayed. And that action delay is the problem. Since even if I cleanse this debuff on me, damage would have already been done. So if this happens too, like for example Castoris, I just restart. Or any other import ally of yours. Because I wouldn't care if that happened to my Ranmei, if her action got delayed and she cannot do anything until the next turn. Because if I had already cast her ult and skill, sure, then my ult and skill are up longer now. But if it happens to Castoris, then that means I would do her skill a bit later, I would summon her dragon a bit later, it would mess up the flow. So just know, you see this thing on your head, cleansed ASAP. With Hyacinth it gets cleansed automatically, luckily. But if you see it, just cleanse it or just restart if it messes up your whole skill point flow of the team. Because now you need to skill with your healer, which causes your DPS not being able to cast their skill maybe. It depends on your team, but just be mindful of this thing. And then yeah, of course, Zandar, he himself, he doesn't do anything. He has like a bounce attack or a blast attack, nothing hindering. The same case in this mode of his, nothing hindering. The only hindering thing is that when this thing gets a turn, he will get 1 stack of this thing, and it will be like here. This 1 stack means that when he does this big attack of his, when he has these 10 stacks, depending on how many of these stacks he has, 1 ally of yours will get entangled. And luckily for me, after that attack, my Rome got that entanglement. And thing with entanglement is that you cannot do anything until the start of your next turn, sure, but your action will also get delayed. So if that happened to my Castores, I just restart because even if I cleanse with Hyacinth, her action would have already been delayed. So just hope that it happens to a not important ally like Ronmei, because now her ult is up longer and her skill is up longer. I don't care about the action delay for her. And this is the really only hindering thing of Zandar. This big attack of his, if he had a stack of this thing. Because he can also have 2 or 3 stacks depending on how many times this thing got its turn. And also, this attack of his will do more damage depending on how many stacks he has. But you just got to tank that attack. That entanglement is the real big problem. And then of course, Zandar also helps us a bit. Because as you can see, he can give this thing to us right here. And it's actually good for us. Because it advances the action of our allies, all of the selected allies, and they get their ult up immediately. When he's in this mode, he does that to 2 allies. In this mode, he can do it to 1 ally. But the caveat is, of course, when you cast your ult, then you will lose like half of your HP. It is just a sustaining thing. I just recommend you to always cast your ult if you need it. But in most cases, you will need it. Just got to sustain through it. There's nothing more to it. Since we really need every bit of little damage or buff we can get from our allies, because Zandar is just too tanky. And then at last, we got the summons of Zandar, and luckily these summons are summoned automatically every time you kill a summon, because we know every time you kill a summon, he will get 1 stack, which we need for him to switch state. These enemies themselves don't really hinder you luckily, because Zandar will buff all of them with this little tornado, as you can see. And this tornado just means that whenever an enemy attacks, so if this enemy attacks, when he has this tornado, then he will get another action immediately after that. That's what the tornado means. And to dispel this tornado, you just need to weakness break the enemy, but all of that will just happen automatically. And also every time a summon of Zandar attacks, they will lose a bit of HP at the start of their turn. It helps us killing them faster. But yeah, regarding the kits of the enemies, this enemy, like I said, doesn't hinder you. When he attacks you, you will get like a bit of transparent HP of the damage he has done. And this transparent HP means that when you heal it back, you will get like a damage bonus for your next attack. That's it. But you can also heal this transparent HP back if you attack an enemy, and the more enemies you attack, you heal it transparent HP back. And then we got this enemy with the sword. It has a single target attack, and whenever an enemy dies, this thing will do like a AoE attack whose damage is distributed evenly. That's it. And if there were 2 of these enemies on the field, only 1 of them would do this attack immediately whenever an enemy dies. But you can just ignore these enemies since they don't hinder you. You just got to kill them as fast as possible in this mode of Zandar, so you can make Zandar switch his states ASAP. And the last thing Zandar does to his summons is that he can like buff them like this, where they glow a bit yellow. And this just means that they will get an action immediately and they will do more damage and like regenerate HP. Nothing really special. It only becomes a problem if you have this thing on your head, because you got to win the RNG that he does not attack the ally with this thing on the head, because then you actually will get delayed. So all in all, for Zandar, yellow means you got to wait until he summons enemies, which he does when this yellow thing gets a turn, and he will summon 2 at a time, or he will get a stack when you summon a Memo Sprite. If he has 4 stacks, you go to this stage, and now your aim is to kill everyone, and every time you kill anyone, he will get 1 stack. And if he has 10 stacks, he will do a big attack, and then he will start again with the yellow one, and every time you switch, he will get plus 1 stack of this thing, which increases his damage received. That's it. So now, let's go to the wave before Zandar. This is pretty straightforward, luckily. This ape can mark an ally of yours with an eye like this. First it is randomly, and then after he has marked an ally, every time you skill with an ally, the ally that's killed will get that eye. And then if another ally is killed, then the eye will get transferred to that ally, etc. And this eye just means that the ape will attack the ally who has the eye. And there can be just 1 eye at a time. So if you see your ally has 10 HP and the ape is next up, make sure you do not skill, because the ape will attack that ally then. And he will also give himself like a damage bonus and stuff like that, but nothing hindering, just got to sustain through it. And then let's go to this enemy. The only irritating thing about this enemy is this green thing around him, and this just means that whenever he attacks, he will heal, and we don't want that. So to make sure he does not heal, you got to remove that buff on him. But if you don't have anyone who can remove buffs, then your other option is to kill his summons. If you do that, this thing will get removed. But as you might have noticed, the summons of his also heal when they attack you, and that healing back will get removed if you kill them. But if you kill these small things, they will regenerate with 50% HP. but that's no problem. You just got to kill them once to remove the summons their healing back thing and remove this green thing around them. But if you just do your consistent attacks, the summons will die automatically. And then now let's go to the first wave of the first node. And I want to start with this sword enemy right here, because all you need to know about this enemy is that he can target an enemy to enter a duel with him, as you can see above Anaxa's head. And this means that Anaxa can now only attack this enemy, and this enemy also gets this percentage thing. You can ignore that percentage thing, and that other enemies that attack this enemy now will do reduced damage. The aim is now to weakness break this enemy when you have entered this duel. Since when you weakness break this enemy, all your allies will get a damage buff for 2 turns, which we really need in this MOC. So just remember, you see this enemy has entered a duel with someone, weakness break him ASAP, get that damage bonus for 2 turns for your whole team, that's it. Well, there's actually one other thing with this sword enemy, and that's that when he attacks you, he will inflict this red transparent HP on you, and if you heal that red transparent HP back, your next attack will do more damage, but you will also heal back that transparent HP. If you attack enemies, and the more enemies you attack, the more you will heal back off that transparent HP, but all of that will just happen automatically. Just know a healer is recommended to get that damage bonus for your next attack up more consistent, because we really need that damage. But since this sword enemy doesn't attack that consistently, you can just take any sustainer you want actually. Just know you see it red transparent HP. If you heal that back, your next attack will do more damage. That's it. But now let's go to the flying fish things. The thing with them is that every time you attack them, they will get +1 stack of this thing. And it is not any attack. If we click on them, we can see if we attack them with a basic attack, skill, ult, or member sprite skill, they will get 1 stack. And if they have 5 stacks in this case, that actually will be advanced and they will do their thing. And they can enter this yellow mode, where now they have 4 stacks instead of 5. And this is also where the irritating thing starts, and that is that like 70% of the damage you do to them will be converted to dot. So if you're like, why can't I one-shot them? Well, that's because they are in this yellow modus, and the damage you did to them, most of them got turned into dot. And how much of that damage got turned into dot can be seen right here if you click on their head. And that's the really only irritating thing about this enemy. And they can also apply this thing where the damage gets converted into dot to you, which you can see right here. So if you're like, oh damn, I take less damage, well, that's because the damage got converted to dot. So be ready for that dot damage at start of your ally's turn. And he can also like apply this other debuff on you, which like reduces your effect resistance and defense. So you basically take more damage, but you just got to sustain through that. Nothing hindering. And these enemies will go out of this yellow state when this flower gets a turn. So now they will take full damage from your attacks. And there is nothing more really interesting about this enemy. He will do his AoE attacks, and same case with the small ones, works exactly the same as the big one, apart from inflicting that effect resistance and defense down debuff. And the nice thing about this small thing is though, when you kill them, they explode and do a little bit of damage to the enemies, but all of that will just happen automatically. This wall note is literally just a DPS check. Since if we go to Gachabid, the same enemy is there, works exactly the same. You can summon a small fish, takes a big portion of the damage as dot. And the only hindering thing about Gachabid is the shield he can give to his allies, and only dot damage can go through it, luckily, because we know if these things are in the yellow state, they take the converted damage in dot. Apart from that, Gachabid really doesn't do anything interesting. Apart from his like literally one-shotting single target attacks and AoE attacks. You just got to get lucky that he does not do his attacks to allies who are low HP, because he really one-shot you, which is pretty stupid. So it's just a DPS check, this wall note. I cannot give you any more tips than telling you use characters in your team who use many skills, because that's what this MOC buff is. If you use skills, you get 1 stack of this thing. It can stack up to 10 max at the end of the wave. The enemies will get damage depending on how many stacks of that thing you have. But yeah, that's it, unfortunately. Just a DPS check, nothing more to this wave. But don't be too discouraged if you cannot clear this MOC yet, because remember that on the 15th of October, Preservation Dangheng will come, along with the reruns and many events we'll be getting along the way. But if you're like, I'm not sure whether I want to summon for Preservation Dangheng or not, well, on the 21st of October, 3.8 drip marketing is to be expected. So you can make a more educated decision then on what to do with your jades. And on the 24th of October, the 3.7 live stream is to be expected, where they will go into the details of Cyrene. So then you can even make a more educated decision on what to do with your jades, on what you need or want. My point is basically, take your time. You still got 6 weeks of time to clear this MOC. Evernight is also around the corner on the 24th of September. No haste, take your time. have fun. That's what matters the most. I thank you for paying attention and see you the next time. Bye.